here are some waves that you probably shouldn't surf. I mean, don't get me wrong, these are all incredible waves in their own right, but rather from a normal surfer's perspective, these are some of the best waves in the world that don't always live up to your expectations. First up, we head to Australia and to Snapper Rocks. Yeah, I get it, Snapper and the Superbank's one of the best waves in the world and whatever, an insane wave on its day, but if you're an average Joe, paddling out there when it's good is gonna be more hassle than it's worth. And this is for several reasons. First of all is that Snapper, it looks like this playful, really fun wave, but it's actually a lot more powerful than you might think. You know, when you see those sort of behind the rock waves, they're super shallow and intimidating if it's a bit bigger. You know, it's a slabby like takeoff, really shallow sandbar. You get these super thick like double ups if there's a lot of sand around there. Also, you've got like backwash washing back off the rock, so you know, even the best people out there are falling on some of those waves. And then there's the crowd factor. It's the most insanely crowded thing you've ever seen. If it's good, there can be like 200 people out or more on the right day. Some days there can be 200 people plus out there across the whole Superbank. You're just kind of relentlessly paddling. If the rip's pulling down the point, it's just this relentless paddle to just keep position. Every wave that comes through, you're sort of turning to try and go, but then there's like 4 other people on the inside of you all trying to do the same, just waiting to like poach and waiting for someone to fall. So if it's good, bigger and like thicker, it's more likely that people do fall, so that's when it's better for poaching. If it's more mellow, it's just a nightmare when people are making everything. Everything else is just this like mad free-for-all, like filtering down the rest of the bank. To France and the iconic Lraviier, a heavy section of beachy located in Hossegor, which can be sick on the right day, but it just takes the sand and conditions to align, which isn't that often. Breaks super close to the beach in this like shore break style wave. It's one of the best beaches out there, but it's not perfect. There are a lot of closeouts, it's really tide dependent and sandbank dependent, so conditions can change really, really quick and kill the waves. And this is the case for Hossegor in general. 1 minute it's firing and then half an hour later it's like a totally different setup. At Lraviier specifically, there can be loads of closeouts. There's usually a thick crowd if it's on, with lots of rips and water moving around, shifty peaks. So it can be a really tricky wave to have a good one and like actually enjoy your surf. You're often like just paddling around, taking off on closeouts and not really doing that much surfing, at least in my experience. Pipeline, this is an obvious one. You'll see those amazing clips of like these crazy lefts and rights. But for your average surfer, even if you're like a normal advanced surfer, it's a good place to watch surfing. I had a much better time sat on the beach watching pipe than actually like being out there. As a wave itself, it's super, super heavy. There's so much water in the wave, like the lips are so thick, it's unbelievable. So if you're watching from the beach, you can kind of feel that as well. It breaks surprisingly close to the beach, so you've got crazy waves right on the shore. If you're in the channel, you can see huge, like wide open tubes, like the biggest barrels you've ever seen. But you can't really even get near it, just because when you're out there, there's obviously the local hierarchy that dominate it, and you're never going to be integrated in that really. I mean, unless you went there like every winter and surfed it every single day for 10 years, you might get a few good ones, but you've got to put some serious time in to get proper waves out there. And yeah, the crowd's just really intense, like multiple people paddling for the same wave. Underneath all of that crowd, you've got this horrible like reef that's got like caves in it, and yeah, I think it is statistically the most deadly wave in the world. It's like killed the most people. Also, when you're watching clips of it, that's just a highlight reel. It's not as perfect as it might seem. There's loads of closeouts. It can be backwashy. It's not as perfect. There'll be a bit of wind on it usually. Paddle out can be sketchy. You've got to paddle out kind of in front of backdoor. The rip pulls you in front of the wave. You've got a crazy sandbar next to it, which can light you up. And then there's crazy rips, so much water, and yeah, just pretty hectic. And if you're a normal surfer, kind of like myself, it's just not that fun a wave to go and be a part of. And it's kind of like an ego thing as well, I reckon, for a lot of people. You go there and you're like, oh, I want to say I've like surf pipe, when really, all you really want to do is surf like the little sandbar next to it, or like go to V-land or something, or just go and have a fun surf like a normal wave down the coast. Now, I've only been to this wave once, but HT's or Lancer's right. is such a perfect wave on its right day. We've all seen those clips of like Nate Florence and standing in those like crazy double ups. But it's a wave that looks perfect in the clips, but it's got a lot of different faces to it as well, and it's probably the most perfect imperfect wave in the men's. It's, you know, it's not always like those dreamy double up roll-ins. It needs a lot of swell and specific things for that to happen. For the most part, it can be shifty, it's really shallow, there's a lot of people surfing out there, it's obviously really famous. So because of its notoriety, it's always really, really crowded when it's on, with like every boat in the area and all the resorts descending on it if the conditions line up. So it can be tricky to get good ones. You've got waves that like peak over here, waves that are up the reef, and you're just kind of in this weird in-between bit. And then there's something called the surgeon's table, which is the horrible end section at the end of the wave. Is that end section is so shallow and horrible, and it just plagues the end of the wave. Yeah, you definitely don't want to end up there, that's for sure. Anchor point, so this is a funny one because it's such a fun wave, like a perfect canvas for turns. You can get really hollow as well. It is an amazing wave, there's no doubt about that. But because it is one of those waves that is more user-friendly than some other places on this list, it's just packed anytime it's breaking. You've got locals out there, that are dominating. It can be quite localized, and unless it's really big, it's kind of only works on low tide, so it just condenses the crowd even further. So yeah, it can be this pretty gnarly, like aggressive vibe out there, people burning each other, a lot of aggression, testosterone. So if you're a more timid surfer, kind of like I am, it's just not a very nice place to go surfing a lot of the time. Puerto Escondido's Playa Zicatela is one of the most notorious waves in the world on its day. It's like this crazy big wave beachy. On a normal day, it's still a really hollow, intense beachy, and a super dangerous wave. I think second to Pipeline, this is a wave that's killed the most people in the world. They just seem to come in it a different way, just more vertical, just throws out more than anything I've ever seen anywhere else in the world. So while you see these huge teepees, these crazy like spits, it's an amazing wave, but it's just not always perfect. I think even on the big days when like the big wave crew are all out there, they're out there for hours just picking off one or two waves, you know, they're not having a session with like loads and loads of waves. Super heavy, whether it's big or small, there's a lot of closeouts, gets a bit of backwash. Definitely not a perfect wave, and those like big perfect A-frames are definitely few and far between no matter what day it is. And even when it's not psycho, it's just like a head high beachy, it's still really, really heavy. There's still loads of closeouts. On those days, it's a really thick crowd, surfers, bodyboarders. So you can often kind of just be lost out there hunting for like corners, but there's just loads of closeouts, you're not in the right spot, there's people, it's, yeah, just pretty hectic place to go surfing. I've had some really fun waves there though, that said, but I think it largely just depends on the sandbanks. So yeah, a crazy wave if you can get one, but a really tricky one for the average punter. So back to Hawaii now and to Sunset Beach, an iconic wave, but one that is notoriously tricky to surf. You know, it's a huge playing field, wide open, with waves like just breaking all over the place, it seems. From boneyards at the top to the West Bowl section on the inside, it can kind of throw up anything, and it's a wave where you can get a crazy hollow section like kind of anywhere on the reef. It's an open ocean wave, so it feels like you're always going to get cleaned up, and there's a thick crowd, usually like full of locals on massive boards sitting way out, and it's another lineup that feels like you can kind of just get lost in. So when I surfed it a few times, I rode like a bigger board, like a 6'8" a lot of the time out there, and just never really felt like I was surfing. I was just standing up on these big peaks and just sort of going straight towards the beach, like not actually doing any turns or anything like proper. So yeah, it's a really good wave to experience. It's iconic and like quite fun because it always kind of feels like you're charging, but it really makes you appreciate how people actually surf it well and do turns and get tubed. And yeah, I had this one session out there where my mate convinced me to go out, and he's obviously a lot more confident in bigger waves, and we're kind of looking at it from the beach going, oh, it looks solid, but like not that big, like kind of the same as what we've been surfing. And we checked it from like the backyard side, so like the other side of Sunset to where you might traditionally look at it from. So we're looking like from behind down at the wave, so it just looked like a sick point. So we paddled out, like took my 6'2" or 6'8", I think, and I got out there and there was just one other person out there. My mate took off on like an inside bowl wave and snapped his board, got washed in, and then I was so scared that I didn't even want to go like near the lineup. It was actually like 8 to 10 foot, and I was so scared I didn't even want to go near the lineup, so I kind of just stayed in the channel. And when there's a lot of swell there, the channel's deep and a lot of water like funnels out through there, so it's really hard to actually get back in. So I was just like paddling against this rip for ages and ages. I was just like, I don't think I'm actually going to be able to get back in here. And I started getting nervous that I wasn't going to make it back in, and that I'd have to like go into the lineup and like take a wave on the head to get washed in. But I like powered through it and eventually managed to like paddle and get back to the beach. So yeah, that was quite like a nothing story, but I was so scared like the whole time. Again, a sick wave, but it's just way faster and harder to do turns than you might think. I've spoken about this in a handful of videos before if you watch this channel regularly, but because it comes like straight in towards the rocks, it just races off across them, and unless it's firing, it's a really hard wave to surf well. You're kind of just racing more than like doing turns, so it really makes you appreciate how the CT crew surf it and actually rip into it. I found like I was just pumping and not really doing much. And obviously there it's really, really crowded as well. You've got that shark factor in the back of your mind, so that's, yeah, two things that are not very appealing for anyone. But if you can get a really good one and if you surf it well, it is, I guess, still one of the best waves in the world. So yeah, that is a list of waves that you probably shouldn't surf. Don't get me wrong, this isn't me moaning about these waves, even though it sounds like it. It's often not finding good ones at some of these breaks is a reflection of one's ability more than anything else. But yeah, for the average punter, I think some of these waves are really, really tricky to get good ones, and it often, you know, they don't often live up to expectations. And secondly, it's amazing to even be able to go and experience some of these waves. So although you go to these places and have frustrating surfs and moan about it like I do, it's still, you know, it's still amazing to go and check them out. But generally speaking, for a fun surf as your average punter, these waves are pretty overrated and pretty hard to surf. If you've surfed some of these waves, let me know of your experiences down in the comments. Thank you for the support as always. For now, it's goodbye from me, and I'll see you in the next episode.